Hey kiddos, today we are going to look at simple graphics with turtle programming. A long time ago, computers were just used to crunch numbers. They only output text. I mean, there wasn't a lot of flair to them. But we know our modern computers process a lot of graphics. We see a lot of really cool things when we interact with the computers. And just think about your video games. The algorithms that render those graphics are very complex. So before we can get into that really complex stuff, we need to understand the basics, and we'll kind of start that with turtle programming. Turtle programming is used a lot for newbies or new computer programmers. It kind of steps you into a lot of the primary functions of programming. But it was really originally just like a robot that would move across the floor. It was used to help teach kids programming, and it had a pin on it, and you told it to move in what direction, and it drew things. So it was kind of helping introduce kids to functions and et cetera. So we are going to use turtle programming just to look at some basic imaging processing with Python. Okay, so I want you to follow along with this tutorial. Create a new script file and save it as art.py, and then also include the comments that I'm including in this tutorial, and that way if you need to reference this on your test or you need to look back on it for a project, you'll have this documentation there. Okay. All right, so how do we get started? The first thing that we need to do is import the turtle module. So we need to import turtle. So that's the first thing that you need to do. The turtle will not work without importing this module. Then remember back in JavaScript when we wanted to work with the date object, we had to create a new instance of that date. The same is with the turtle. We need to create a new instance of the turtle, and we're going to save that instance as T. So whenever we refer to T, it's just referring to a new instance of the turtle. And then we're also going to create an instance of the screen, but we'll look at that in just a moment. Okay, so when your turtle is first loaded, it's going to load a separate window. You should notice that the turtle is facing right. It looks like an arrow, doesn't look like a turtle. I know. But it is facing the right. And that's important because when you tell it to move forward, as I have here, it moves forward 50 pixels, okay? So in this case, t.forward moves the turtle forward 50 pixels, okay? So if you hit F5 after you've typed this code, that should render, okay? But what if you didn't want him to go in that direction? You wanted him to go in another direction. So let's see how we can change that. We can rotate our turtle left by a certain number of degrees, whatever number of degrees we put in parentheses, and you can use negative numbers here. And then let's make him go forward. So let's see what happens when we execute this code. So he should go forward 50 pixels here. He should make a left turn and then go forward 50 more pixels. So let's take a look when we hit F5. And there, indeed, he did make that turn, okay? Likewise, we can rotate right. So let's see what happens when we render that code. Okay, and that time I made him only turn right 45 pixels. So he turned, at first he was going forward, he went 50 pixels. Then he turned left and went 50 pixels. And this time we've made him make a right turn. He was facing this way, so he made a half a turn, 45 degrees, and then he went forward 50 pixels. Okay? Now sometimes you may want to move without drawing. So you may want to make your turtle move to a certain place on the screen without him actually drawing anything. And you can do this a couple of ways. So the first way, we can use T up and T down. So T up means he can go anywhere and he's not going to draw. So I have him going right 90 degrees, then I have him going forward 50 pixels, and then he goes down, and then he moves forward 50 pixels. So let's see what this looks like when we execute this code. All right, so see we have that gap there. We were able to make him move without drawing on the screen. Okay, so another way that you could make him move, I keep saying him like it's a him, it could be a her, it could be a her turtle. One way you can make it move with specific coordinates. So we can use the go to and specify an XY coordinate. I didn't say this at the beginning, but when your turtle first renders, it renders at 0, 0. So just think you're in math class and you're graphing all those wonderful equations. The very center of the turtle graphic screen is 0, 0. So we can make the little turtle go back to the center. So I've moved the pin up. So we're saying T up, so it's not going to draw. Go back to the center of the screen, put your pin down, and then move forward 50 pixels. So let's see what this looks like. All right. And there he went back and moved 50 pixels. Okay. So let's say I'm just tired of my abstract drawing and I want to get rid of it all. It's just too much. We can clear our screen with T-clear. So let's try an F5 here. And it erased our work so far. Okay. Now, if you want to add color, because yeah, the turtle can be colorful too. If you want to use RGB values, remember red, green, blue values. They're a value from 0 to 255 in the red, 0 to 255 in the green, 0 to 255 in the blue. You need this line of code. So you need s.color mode set to 255 in order to be able to use red, green, blue values. If you don't want to use RGB, you don't even need this line of code, okay? But we are going to use RGB. Okay, so let's say the first thing I want to do is change my background color. So when you change your colors, either your pen color or your background color, you can just use a word, a color word. It has to be, one of the color words. It can't be a made up word like Pepto-Bismol pink, but it has, you can type the actual string color. So if we execute this code, we should have our initial drawing, and then yes, our screen turns orange. Okay, so that's and notice this is S. I'm not working with turtle. Up here we created a new instance of the screen. So S.color mode allows us to use those RGB values, and then S.bg color allows us to change it to orange. Okay, so what if I wanted to change my pen color? I want my pen color to be a different color. So let's look at this. We can change our pen color using T.pen color, and then in this case I've used an RGB value. Be careful. I don't think it likes spaces there. It took me a long time. It may have been that I had not included that. The book implies that you don't need this, but this is the only way I could get RGB values to work. So now our pen color should change. Let's see what color we changed it to. Again, F5 to execute and erase, and we have a blue. You can't really see it there because our turtle right now is just 1 pixel wide. His width is just 1 pixel. So what if I wanted to make him wider? Like his pen needs to be a little thicker so we can see it on the screen. So if I want it a little wider, we can change the width. So I changed the width to 10 pixels, and now I'm making him move forward 50 pixels. So let's see what happens now. Now see he's a dark blue, so we changed his color to dark blue. You couldn't really see it when it was small, but now that it's larger, you can see the color. Okay. We can also draw a circle with our turtle. So I'm going to tell it to draw a circle, and I should say where X is the radius. Okay, so this is going to draw a 100 pixel radius. So let's hit F5. And beautiful. See that fun circle that our turtle drew? He's so talented. Now, what if I wanted the circle to have a fill color? So let's say I can set the fill color using the T fill color. And then I set this one to a hexadecimal value. So I used hexadecimal. You have to put the hashtag just like we did with HTML. And to use a fill, you have to start the fill and then you also have to end the fill. So I'm going to, well, first let me show you this, what it's supposed to look like, and then I'll show you what happens if we don't end the fill. Okay? So lines, orange, big circle. Now we should have a small circle and it should be filled with purple. Pretty cool, huh? But what if we didn't end that fill? I'm going to take that out and let's see what happens when we execute. Big circle, little circle. It did not fill. It did not fill because it didn't have that end fill there. So make sure you include that. Now, also, it's important that you end the fill where you want it to end, because if I made some more movements after that, so I'm going to comment out this infill. You don't do this on your screen. I'm just showing you how things can go wrong. Okay. And if we didn't have an end fill and we had more movement, okay, no fill. But if we moved this end fill to after all of these, so I'm going to move it to after all of those movements, what do you predict will happen? Okay, so let's F5 and check this out. All right, do you see how it tried to fill these angles that it made? And those overlapped with this, so it went back to the background. It really couldn't fill this area. So be careful with your infill. You could make some really cool art that way, though, playing with your infill and big infill. Okay. Almost finished. I know this is not the most interesting tutorial, but playing with this is so much fun. Just wait till you start playing with the turtle. Okay, so what if we wanted to change our drawing speed? And I'm actually going to move this section up a little bit so you can see these changes let's go right here after our orange. Okay, so working with the speed is weird because 0 is the fastest, but 1 is the slowest, but 10 is faster. Huh. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start with a speed of 0, and then let's see what happens to our work. Okay, I drew it almost instantly. Now, if I did say 5, actually, I think 5 is the default. I think 5 is what we were working at. I may be wrong about that. Let me find. So let's do 8. It's about the same speed as it was before. Let's play and change the speed even lower. Let's go to 1 and see how slow it is. See, that's uncomfortably slow. But it may be that you had some fun graphics that you wanted to appear very slowly. All right, last thing is we can draw an arc. Let me go back and let's change our speed back up let's do 8, so it'll be pretty fast. And the last thing that we want to look at is how we can draw a half circle or an arc. In this case, this will be a semicircle. You can add some arguments. The first one are parameters. The first one is the size of the circle, so I'm saying 75, but I'm saying only draw 180 degrees of that circle. So we should only have a half a circle. So let's tell it to go to 0, 0, so we can kind of see it won't be with all the rest of our circles that we've drawn. So F5, circle, circle fill, and half circle. So it went back to 0, 0. It was still at this angle. It started at this angle and drew a half circle. Now look at our beautiful abstract art. Do you think we could sell that on Etsy? Maybe. Okay, there is a link if you want to check some different things out, but I did include a link to the Python documentation for turtle. So there's lots of more information in here about what you can do. There's actually like shortcuts. So instead of typing the whole word forward, you could do FD. For backwards, you could do BK or back. For right, you could do RT instead of right, or LT instead of left. For the go to, you could do set pose or set position. So there's all sorts of different things. You can even define a stamp. It's cool. It's cool. So play around with this. Let's see what you can come up with.